Hello, my name is Alexis Austin, and I am embarking on something bold. I started this podcast as a way to open up the blinds, as it were, or pull back the curtains to show the principles that I've learned of success and the overarching principles of universal truth. Now, for me, I'll be honest, this is a little bit intimidating. I've known for a while now that I should be telling more than I was. I should be going more into my history, going more into the deep fundamental truths that I've learned. But to be honest, I was worried about what people would think. I was worried about how some of the topics that I have to discuss might impact my family or my friends, how it might change the way people saw me. I was worried about people thinking I was woo woo or crazy. I was worried about giving the secrets of success over to my competition. And I was steeped in this idea that I have to keep all the knowledge myself, hide, be small, and stay safe. That was the key, is staying safe. But I realized I can't play small anymore. I can't not practice what I preach. It's time to step forward, to tell it all, and to share with the world what I have learned. So that's how this podcast began. What we're going to be doing in this podcast is we're going to be using my background and the way that I've learned to study. So I have dual degrees in psychology and philosophy. The philosophy one I actually got accidentally because I just love digging into philosophical texts. And from a young age, I've wondered, what is the point of this? What is the purpose of the universe? So I have a philosophy degree that I accidentally got. But then I also went to law school and I learned how to meticulously analyze texts, how to dig in and really pull out the truths, and to simplify it in a way that made sense to everyone else. So my intention behind this podcast is to pull back anything that I've been hiding from myself personally or from the world to show people, okay, this is how I got to where I am. A lot of people have asked me, how did you get to where you are from the perspective of how did you build your law firm or how did you build your consulting company? How did you get there? How did you get there so quickly? And I've given some ideas and some principles, but I've never gone deep into the origin story. I've never given the full truth. And it's not that I've been lying, it's that I've been hiding. And I decided now is the time to stop hiding. And I will be honest with you, it terrifies me to be doing this. I have no idea where it's going. I have no idea what the purpose of the podcast will be. I don't have any idea who's going to watch it, who's going to listen to it. I have no idea. But this is me exercising the faith that I've been using all along, just in a very public, real way. And the reason I bring up faith is because what most people don't know about me opening my law firm, Right Law Group, is that I actually did it as an act of faith. So that's where I'm going to start today. Is my first story to tell you all is how I started out. Pulling aside all of the reading of the business books and listening to podcasts, which I did religiously, it actually started, as most journeys do, if people will admit it, with a still small voice. Now, call that still small voice what you will. You can call it God, you can call it your subconscious, you can call it the universe speaking to you. I'll tell you honestly, I use the terms interchangeably, but more and more I use the term God because that's how I understand that voice. Although subconscious does make a lot of sense in some circumstances. But what happened is I was coming out of the darkest period of my life. And I'll go into that story a little bit more just so you can understand where I came from and what drew me here, so that if you are suffering with something similar, I hopefully can give you hope that there is a way out, there is a way through. And it doesn't matter how dark it gets, there is always an answer if you'll focus on these fundamental truths that I'm going to be talking about throughout this podcast. But for me, what happened is I was coming out of the darkest time in my life. I had gone through horrible things. I'd gone through a suicide attempt. I'd gone through my fiance at the time actually committing suicide. I had gone through horrible events that I was reliving traumas from my childhood. Things were resurfacing. It was a very dark period of my life. And I was currently in this opportunity that should have been wonderful. I had left the district attorney's office. I stopped being a prosecutor, mostly because of everything that I was dealing with emotionally, psychologically, and spiritually. And I'd been given an opportunity to work at a law firm and actually come in as a partner, because if you're a high achiever, you'll understand this concept. No matter what's going on in your personal life, as a high achiever, you still push. You still present this outward facade of strength, of complete control. And so to the outside world, everything was going great for me. I had stopped being a prosecutor. I'd stepped into this lucrative position as a partner, no less, at a prominent criminal defense firm in the Colorado Springs area. And I looked like I was doing great, but really I wasn't. I was spiraling. What happened to cause me to start on this journey where you find me today is I was, as most things happen, I was in a period of quiet. For me, that's the shower. I don't know why, but I always get my best ideas in the shower. The idea for this podcast came in the shower, and I take that back. I do know why. What happens is you're focused on doing something subconsciously. You're allowing your brain to just settle, and it gives you that time and peace and quiet to allow other thoughts and things to surface. And I'd been working through up until the point that I heard this voice. I've been working through all of my trauma. I was coming back to the light. I was starting to stabilize. But I was thinking, well, what's next? What am I supposed to be doing? What is my purpose? Where should I go from here? And I kid you not, you can call me crazy if you want, but I have talked to plenty of people who've had the same experience. I was in the shower and I remember my hands were in my hair. I remember exactly how I was standing. I was washing my hair and I legitimately heard this still small voice. There's no other way to describe it. It was probably in my head. I felt like it was just coming from me and around me at the same time. But this voice said, open up your own law firm. And I was like, that's crazy. I've got a law firm here. I can do it here. And then it said, jump and I will catch you. And for some reason, those words, jump and I will catch you, just completely floored me. I knew that this was something more than me. This was something pulling me to a greater purpose. And I had no idea then when I opened my own law firm that I would end up here. That was 7 years ago. 7 years ago when this happened. And actually, it was around March, which is interesting. I tend to do these big life-changing events during March. Maybe it's something about springtime. But it was March 2018 when I heard that voice. I heard, jump and I will catch you. And that's where my journey reacclimating myself to faith, reacclimating myself to trusting that inner knowing started. I had been pulled away from it for a very long time, but coming back to that was the beginning point of me starting this incredibly successful series of events that have happened in my life. Since hearing that voice, I launched a criminal defense practice, having no idea what I was doing. I then grew that practice and about a year and a half ago started consulting where I taught other criminal defense lawyers how to grow and build their practices. And then I started broadening and helping other lawyers. And now I'm helping a larger group of people really realize their passion and dream and branch out and start following what it is that they were put here to do. But it all started with that very small moment. And I could have easily overlooked it. I could have thought, well, this is silly. This is me just talking to myself, which I do. But I took it as, no, this is what you're supposed to do. It was undeniable that this was coming from the universe somewhere else outside of me. And I took the jump. And it has been a series of jumps since then, including this podcast, where I find myself today owning a multi-million-dollar company, 2 of them actually, and living a life that I could only dream of back 7 years ago. I'm going to dive in a lot more in this podcast into my story, where I came from, how I got here, because really this has been a journey for the last 20 years to bring me to where I am today. But my hope and my goal is that by sharing that story, it'll help you understand a little bit of the foundation of who I am and where I came from, to show you that anyone can do what I'm doing and anyone can get to where I'm getting. If I can from where I was, you can do it too. The other purpose of this podcast is I'm looking to bring in all of those principles of success that I've learned over the years and show you what I have learned, which is the same universal principles underlie everything that we learn. If you're an entrepreneur or a business person, I'm sure you've read successful books like The E-Myth by Michael Gerber or Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. There are a lot of classic books that you read about success and growth. But what's fascinating is that all of those books have the same general themes. And when you look at those themes are throughout history. They're in Christianity, they're in Buddhism, they're in ancient philosophy texts, they are everywhere. What's happened, in my opinion, is that people have gotten so chaotic and so muddled that we've lost those truths. My goal and intention in this podcast is to bring those truths to light in a way that is not woo-woo or fluffy. I want to bring this analytical, problem-solving brain that I have learned and honed over the last 20 years of my life to analyzing these texts, analyzing these concepts for you, and making it so that it's very digestible, very understandable, so that you, no matter where you are at, no matter who you are listening to this podcast, you can start putting these into effect in your life. My goal for you is that if you found this podcast, it will in some way be a sign that, hey, I can move forward on this next big thing that I'm thinking, or I have the ability to jump. I don't need to know why or how if I follow these principles. The how comes after you make the decision. So for me personally, you're also going to be seeing me performing this act in real time. So the idea of jumping and not knowing where it's going, I'm literally doing that here in front of you in this podcast. And that's the other thing I hope this does, is it shows you that it's okay to be scared. It's okay to jump and not know what you're doing, as long as you're doing it from that place of knowing this is the next step. I don't understand why. I don't understand how it's going to turn out. I'm not sure where it's going, but I've listened to that quiet voice within me. I know that this is my next step and this is what I'm going to do. So I hope you all will join me on this journey. I hope you subscribe to the podcast. My intention is to bring you content every single week. If I can do it every day, I will. But I will warn you right now, I have a 5-month-old who's a little chatty and loud, so you may hear him in the podcast as we're going along. It's just life, and there's no way to get out of what's going on in life. There's no way to avoid it. My job is to just present what I can in the way that I best can to serve you. So again, I have no idea what we're going to uncover together. I have no idea where this podcast is going to lead. My only hope at this point is that if you have found this podcast and you're interested in learning either how I became successful, if you know me, or if you're learning or interested in learning the universal principles that underlie success and truly fulfillment in life, you'll stick with me and gain something from this. My hope is that I'm able to help you in some small way, help you grow, help you be better, help you achieve what it is that you're looking to do. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to shoot me a line. I'm going to create a Facebook podcast page for this, so you're welcome to drop any questions on there, and I will dive in and answer your questions on the podcast as well. I want this to be as helpful to you as possible, because I truly believe that as I'm opening up myself and opening up to what I was put here to do, my true belief is that I was put here to help others find that fulfillment in their life. Now, that may be spiritual fulfillment, that may be success, that may be happiness in your own personal life. I believe that those things are all interconnected and that you can't have one without the other. So my goal and my hope and my wish for you is that you dive in with me, start digging into the truths behind the universe, and let me make this accessible and real for you in a way that benefits you and helps you get to that next place you're trying to reach. Thank you so much for joining on the journey. Please subscribe. And if you have any ideas or comments, please leave them for me. I have no idea how podcasting works. I'll just be raw and honest. So if you want to leave me a review, I think that helps. Leaving a review would be really great, because then other people can see, okay, this is what this podcast is about. But please subscribe so that this information can reach you and continue to help you and enrich your life. Again, I'm Alexis Austin. I'm excited to dive into this journey, and I hope you'll come along with me. See you next time.